first fire tool that we're going to be making is a torch. Now, the tip of the torch is going to be made out of this material that I'm holding up to the camera. It's called Kevlar wick. It catches on fire and it stays on fire. And it's also reusable, so it doesn't really burn up. You can reuse it over and over and over again, and it's fine. Now, the backing of it has an adhesive tape on it, so this is really adhesive Kevlar wick. I bought this kind from thespinsters.com because it has that sticky material, so you can stick it on something. And what I'm going to be sticking it on is this metal pipe. I can handhold it and have my own torch. And it's actually very, very difficult to cut, so I would recommend using a razor instead of scissors, which is what I just used. So you're going to wrap it around just like that and squeeze it tight. Now when you burn it, it actually will kind of unravel. So what you have to do is take some copper wire or something like that and just wrap it around as tight as you can around the Kevlar wick. This will make it so that it will not unravel while burning. You have to wrap it around as tight as you can because you do not want the copper wire to fall off while it's burning and burn your hand, because that's very painful. In fact, I would also wear gloves just in case the copper wire does fall off on your hand. At least you have a little bit of protection. What are we going to be using to catch it on fire? We can use lamp oil or Coleman fuel. Now the difference between the two is that Coleman fuel is very hot and it burns rapidly, and lamp oil burns much slower and it's harder to start and get going. Some people use a mixture of both of them combined, and other people just use Coleman fuel. I happen to be a type of person that just uses the Coleman fuel to make it simple, but sometimes I'll put some lamp oil in there too, and the flame will last a little bit longer. So dump some Coleman fuel in a can and then dip your torch in the can to get it all soaked up in the Coleman fuel. After that, light it on fire, and there you go. You have your torch. You can move it around. You can make designs with it. You can wave it around to make anything you like. Now for the camera settings. I usually will start at ISO 100 to ISO 200. The shutter speed will usually be around 1 second to several minutes. And the aperture, I usually will start off at f11 and then check the back of the LCD preview screen to see how bright the picture is. If I need to brighten the picture up, I will lower the f number, and if I need to darken the picture, I will raise the f number. So it all depends on the situation. So I would always recommend starting out on f11 and then just guess and check from there. And of course, use a tripod, and also use manual focus if you're going to be the photographer and the fire dancer. If you're the photographer and someone else is doing the fire dancing, then you could probably get away with using the autofocus and it would be okay. But if you're both, you're going to have to using the self timer, so you can't really rely too much on the autofocus. In addition to the metal pole with the Kevlar wick attached to the end of it, you can also get a chain with Kevlar wick attached to the end of it. This is called fire poi, and this is what professional fire dancers use when they're doing their performances. Now, I am by no means a professional, but I can sort of just spin it around like that to make a circular pattern. If you want to get crazy with it, I would recommend getting in contact with a professional fire dancer who knows what they're doing. Otherwise, you're going to have to spend months practicing fire dancing in order to get any good at this. So, I just wanted to throw that in there. This is another thing that you can take really cool photos of, but it's kind of, this in and of itself is more of an art form, so unless you have a lot of time, I would just get in contact with a professional fire dancer if you want to get some shots of circular fire designs. Of course, it doesn't have to be circular patterns. In this photo, I simply dragged the fire poi down the road and it made the fire trail behind the car. Kind of looks like it was from Back to the Future. Now, in order to illuminate the car itself, I took a external flash and just manually flashed it on the car from the front left side of the car, right there, and also from the right side of the car. There is a more in-depth explanation on how I took this picture specifically inside of the ebook, so be sure to take a look at that. Now, one last thing is the cleaning. After a few burns, you'll notice that it'll start to look like the torch on the top here. You'll get this ashy, sooty type of stuff everywhere, and even on the pole. Now, I clean the pole. I just take a paper towel and wipe the ash off of it. However, you should not clean the Kevlar wick. Just leave it with the ash on it. It does not need to be cleaned, and you can still dip it in the Coleman fuel